After my life ended, my soul entered the body of a husky. My grave was dug up by a husky. Actually, it wasn't really a grave, just a small mound of earth. No one knew that a person was buried under that tiny hill. My soul floated, trying to chase it away, but it was useless. It glanced at me, then dug even harder. Well, I was already dead, so I might as well surrender to fate. I had no strength left to worry about appearances. When it pulled out my pelvis, everyone in the park was astonished. The missing persons case of Anya Zhang, unsolved for 10 years, had finally yielded a crucial clue. And I, Anya Zhang, had no idea why I had possessed the body of that stray husky, Leo. Once again, I felt the world around me, witnessing the police excavate. A young girl stroked me. "Good boy, Leo. You did a great job today. I'll buy you some sausages later, okay?" Perhaps this body really liked the word sausage, because my tail wagged nonstop, and I even started drooling. It was fortunate that when the culprit buried me, they also buried my identification documents. My parents, after 10 years of separation, rushed to the park. My mother looked at the skeleton lying on the white cloth, collapsing into heart-wrenching sobs. My father, maintaining his composure, embraced my mother, offering her support. "Anya, it's because your mother was useless, leaving you alone here for 10 long years." I broke free from the young girl's embrace and ran towards my mother. "Woof, woof, woof. Mom, it's me. Don't cry anymore." No matter how loudly I barked, no matter how fast my tail wagged, my mother couldn't understand what I was saying. I could only lick her face with my tongue. "You're the dog who found Anya, aren't you? Thank you so much." My mother, trying to hold back her tears, embraced my head. My mother's embrace was as warm as before, filling my heart with a sense of peace. Detective Lee, the officer in charge of the case, approached my mother. "We are deeply sorry that it's taken this long, but we've now found Anya Zhang's remains. The culprit will surely be apprehended soon." "Thank you, Detective Lee, for these past 10 years. You never gave up and we will certainly cooperate." Just like a university professor, my father's words were truly measured. My father still retained his usual elegant demeanor, a true gentleman. My skeleton was quickly exhumed in full. It looked quite good, actually. Especially those long legs. The remains were taken by the police for forensic examination. "Little one, you don't have an owner, do you? Come home with Mom, okay?" Of course, I agreed. I became Mom's darling once more. When I was little, I once told my mom that in my next life, I didn't want to be human. I only wished to become a small puppy, living happily and carefree, eating in the morning, sleeping at night. Mom said, "Then, if you see Mom on the street in your next life, bark twice, and I'll take you home." Those casual words from 10 years ago, who would have thought they'd come true? Instead of going with the police to the station, my parents took me straight to the vet. How annoying, rudely touching someone's private parts, even though I was just a puppy now. No, a big dog, very healthy, just a little dirty. A good bath would fix it. It was then that I understood why dogs bark when they bathe. The feeling was truly unsettling, as if I was about to drown. I desperately clung to the handsome guy's shoulder, yelping, "Woof, let me go." He was drenched by me, only sighing in resignation. Fortunately, he was used to it. After a difficult bath, it was time for drying. I felt like thunder was exploding in my ears. "Woof, woof, woof. Stop drying, I'm going deaf." Only when he handed me back to my mother did the guy breathe a sigh of relief. My father was carrying a very large bag of things, seemingly all for me. Even the new leash was blue, the color I had chosen myself, and it looked beautiful. "You like the same color as your sister, Anya, don't you? Your name will be Leo. Your sister loved stuffed animals the most." "All right." I barked twice to show my agreement. "Let me walk him. I hear this breed is impossible to hold back if it starts running." My father looked at me sternly, worried I might trip his beloved wife. I'm not that kind of person. To make a good impression on Dad, I walked obediently beside him on the way home, neither barking nor running wildly. Both of them seemed unhappy. The entire journey was somewhat silent. Our house was still there, in the Jiang University faculty apartment complex. If I were still alive, I would have graduated from Jiang University 5 or 6 years ago. 10 years ago, in the middle of summer, after my university entrance exams, I arranged to meet Ethan by the river. Ethan was my childhood sweetheart, and I intended to confess my feelings that day. Sitting by the small river, holding a cup of milk tea, I was a little nervous, but above all, filled with anticipation. My blue skirt swayed gently with the turmoil in my heart. A small truck stopped right next to me. Before I could react, Someone covered my mouth and nose and dragged me into the vehicle. In the last moment before losing consciousness, I caught a glimpse of Ethan's figure walking towards the riverbank. He was smiling, holding a box of strawberries, my favorite. The two kidnappers were strangers. I didn't know them at all, and their faces were covered. The only thing I remember is that they took me to some forest and then repeatedly stabbed me with a knife. The excruciating pain spread throughout my body. Until my last breath, I still didn't understand what deep grudge they held against me to murder me so brutally. I could only blame my ill fate. The man standing before me coldly plunged a fatal knife into my heart. I writhed, breathless in paralyzing pain, then went limp. The cicadas' chirping still echoed in my ears. My soul left my body. They hastily buried me right there in the forest, and I was imprisoned there with my decaying corpse. 10 years passed. I witnessed firsthand the changes in Jiang City. The once desolate forest had now become a bustling park. Every day, I could play with the children and dogs in the park. Such a life wasn't so bad. As soon as we arrived home, I eagerly ran around everywhere. I pulled out my favorite cushion, which was still in the corner, and stomped on it. The familiar feeling was still there. "Big bro is back." My mother said nothing, only smiled and stroked my head. "Leo, go play outside by yourself for a bit, okay? Mom's going to the kitchen to cook for you." Taking advantage of Mom being in the kitchen and Dad working, I stealthily opened my bedroom door. My beloved large brown teddy bear still lay on the windowsill, as soft as ever. Everything in the room was exactly as it had been, nothing had changed. I instinctively glanced under the bed. The pile of CEO romance novels I used to be obsessed with was completely dust-free. Abandoning the idea of taking the teddy bear, I left the room. Just then my mother called me for dinner. A bowl full of dry kibble and dried meat. It was deliciously crunchy. After dinner, I sat with my parents on the sofa, watching TV. Watching the news after a meal was my father's ingrained habit. Today, in Xinjiang Flower Garden, the remains of Anya Zhang were exhumed. The victim had been missing for 10 years. The Anya Zhang case had caused a huge stir in Jiang City back then. The police mobilized a large force, searching for 2 months without success. Even many citizens voluntarily joined the search. A decade had passed. The radiant girl from years ago was now nothing but bones. According to police information, Anya Zhang was murdered with multiple stab wounds, and her bones bore many cuts. Not to mention the instances where the knife had slipped off the bone, revealing the brutal extent of the perpetrator's cruelty. This was terrible. Mom would surely cry. Turning around, I saw my mother leaning on my father's shoulder, choking back sobs. My father, always so composed, was subtly wiping away a tear from the corner of his eye. Knock, knock, knock. A knock echoed from the door. It was Ethan. "Mr. and Mrs. Zhang, I just saw the news about Anya." Oh, Ethan was getting more handsome by the day. I loved him even more. I rushed into his arms, wagging my tail enthusiastically. "Woof, woof, woof. Kiss me, handsome, kiss me." "This is Leo, the one who found Anya." After a few brief exchanges, Ethan led me outside. "I'll take him for a walk for a bit. Mr. and Mrs. Zhang need some space to grieve." Ethan took me to the riverbank and sat down right where I used to wait for him. At this moment, he no longer tried to hold back, burying his head in his lap and sobbing uncontrollably. I obediently sat beside him, and when he still didn't react, I nudged myself into his lap. I licked away the tears on his face. They were salty, and his eyes were bloodshot, looking utterly pathetic. But alas, humans and dogs are inherently two different worlds. At most, we share one lifetime, ultimately left incomplete. Ethan hugged me tightly, burying his face in my neck. "Woof, woof, woof, stop rubbing already. I just had a bath today." "Oh no, you're going to get me dirty. I don't want another bath." "Thank you, Leo. If it weren't for you, how much longer would Anya have had to lie there alone? For 10 years, she never came to me. I never even dreamed of her. Does she blame me for not coming sooner? If I had come earlier, maybe I could have gone with her on the path to the afterlife." "Why are you saying such unlucky things? Phooey, phooey, why are you cursing yourself like that?" Hearing him say that, I felt fortunate that he was a step too late. This matter wasn't related to him. There was no need for him to sacrifice his life. I had planned to confess my feelings to her. I'd read the love letter in my hand countless times, wanting to read it to Anya. If she had agreed, perhaps by now we would have had a little dog to raise. She loved furry animals so much. Why did that cursed culprit murder me? I must get that love letter at all costs. Ethan hugged me tightly. weeping ceaselessly, sometimes recounting memories from the past 10 years. During these 10 years, he had diligently studied at Zhejiang University and was now a doctor. How wonderful, exactly as he had once dreamed. I remembered clearly how he used to say he wanted to follow in the footsteps of his predecessors and continue his academic pursuits at Zhejiang University. I had replied, "Finishing university is enough for me. I want to pursue archaeology and travel all over the country. Then I'll stay in Jiang City and wait for you." 10 years had passed in the blink of an eye. The naive young man from back then was now a grown man, capable of bearing all responsibilities. After regaining his composure, we both stood up, ready to go home. On the way back, he bought a balloon and tied it to my leash, still retaining that childlike innocence from before. Tonight, for them, was nothing short of a dream. Having poured out all their emotions, life still had to go on. A week later, my remains were returned. My parents had already chosen my resting place at the cemetery and specifically picked out a pale pink urn. The skeleton, even after cremation, was still a bit large. The staff member struggled for a while before finally fitting it into the urn. My existence in this world had completely vanished. Suddenly, I felt an unbearable sadness. Ethan was also there. He held my urn tightly throughout the ceremony. Only when it was time for the burial did he let go. Many people came to bid me farewell. Most of them were strangers to me. Suddenly, a familiar scent assaulted my nose, the scent of the evil culprit. In the sweltering summer weather, a cold current rushed in like a venomous snake. That strong perfume scent, exactly like 10 years ago. Now that I was a dog, my sense of smell had become even keener. The scent was even more potent. I lifted my dog head, observing each person one by one, still seeing many unfamiliar faces. "Rest in peace, Anya. We hope Anya will have a better new life. Teachers, please suppress your grief." Everyone offered comfort, advising my parents not to dwell too much on the past, to let everything go. Rest in peace. A man in a neat suit placed a white rose on my urn. I carefully observed him. His voice and scent were exactly the same as 10 years ago. This time, I finally got a clear look at his true face. Dressed in a dignified suit, one could tell he was wealthy just by looking at him. He had a very ordinary face, nothing remarkable. His eyes were long and narrow, and his skin was dotted with acne scars. He wore a pair of gold-rimmed glasses that made him appear intelligent. The longer I looked, the more everything became hazy. My head spun. Was the corner of that person's mouth curling into a sneer? Everything around me seemed to turn upside down, and I quickly realized there was something wrong with that bouquet. Immediately, I lunged at the urn, grabbed the white rose, and began to tear it apart. I shredded each petal with my teeth, and inside the bud I found a small red crystal. I didn't know what it was. But after I crushed the petals, the dizziness I had felt disappeared. Unbelievable. He murdered me, and now he doesn't even want me to rest in peace. If he's so afraid of me becoming a vengeful ghost, why did he dare to kill me in the first place? My sudden action interrupted everyone's thoughts. The man in the suit looked at me with an angry gaze, as if just waiting for an opportunity to kick me. My mother quickly pulled me back, hugged me close, and sobbed uncontrollably. "Leo, be good, stop making noise. Let your sister rest in peace." An immeasurable sadness welled up in my heart, but I couldn't articulate it. Because of the language barrier, I could only sigh. I had no choice but to lie obediently in my mother's arms, watching that man from afar, talking to someone else, and then leaving. The person he was talking to was probably his accomplice from back then. This made me extremely uneasy because the culprit was someone my parents knew. I was afraid they would harm my parents. On the way home, I lost all enthusiasm. I no longer ran around and played. Having returned to the mortal world, one must cherish life. One wrong step and one could become a walking corpse. An old Taoist priest sat by the roadside, looking at me with mysterious eyes. "Woof, woof, woof, so accurate, master. Please tell my fortune." Perhaps hearing such an unlucky remark, my mother glared at the Taoist priest and pulled me along. I didn't dare to be stubborn, but as I walked, I looked back 3 times. "I'll wait for you here." Woof, woof, yes, yes. That night, I had a perfect plan. When the time came, I would find Ethan and ask him to take me for a walk. Then I would lead him here. Perfect. Ethan took me to the small park, intending to let me roam around. I struggled free from my leash and ran towards the Taoist priest I had seen during the day. Just as expected, the priest was still sitting in the same spot, saying, "You've come, have you?" I approached him and sat down opposite him. The rose branch you received today, I gave it to them. You came to me for a flower, only saying you were being tormented by evil spirits, so I gave it to them. Little did I know, it almost harmed you. I've read your fortune. If you can let go of the past, you can live out your life in this body. Woof woof. Thank you, Master, I understand. I've said what needed to be said. Farewell, then. With that, the Taoist priest stood up, stroked my head, and turned to walk away. His straight figure gradually disappeared behind the misty curtain like a swaying bamboo. Immediately, I dashed back to Ethan. As soon as I reached the park, I heard Ethan calling my name, his voice hoarse with worry. I hurried to his side, and he angrily scolded me. Where did you go? Do you even know your way back? As he spoke, he playfully tapped my head a few times. Knowing I was at fault, I didn't dare to argue, only whimpering softly. After letting off some steam, Ethan flopped down beside me and hugged me tightly. Leo, you can't do that again, understand? If you went missing, what would we do? In that moment, I understood why the Taoist priest had advised me to let go of my obsession. I rubbed my head against Ethan's cheek. All right, from now on, I'll be good to everyone. Anya Zhang had passed away 10 years ago. Everyone should forget her and live happily. Now, there was only a mischievous Leo who specialized in getting into trouble, but little did I know, trouble was about to find me. When we arrived home, I saw a man in a suit sitting on the sofa. Leo Shen, this is our Leo. Leo, come say hello to Mr. Shen, dear. Whenever we had guests, Dad would make me perform. I reluctantly walked out to greet him. Woof, woof, woof. I hope you get fired from your job, get hit by a falling flower pot on the street, fail at everything you do, and live a lonely old life. The more I thought about it, the happier I felt, and the more enthusiastically I barked. My father didn't understand my meaning, and instead turned to boast to the man in the suit. See how much my Leo likes you, he's greeting you so warmly. No, Dad, you misunderstand me. The man in the suit just smiled. Still a great teacher, Professor. Professor, this pervert was my father's student. What a good actor. When my father left, the man in the suit approached me. He stroked my head, a silent smirk on his lips, his eyes staring straight into mine. Do you know how the body you just dug up died? I stabbed her many times, but I forgot exactly how many. Today, you tore apart the flower I gave her. I'm very annoyed. Don't play around like that again. I definitely won't bite a dog. He turned to leave and said, Professor, I have something urgent, so I'll take my leave now. During dinner, my mother was still puzzled. Didn't Shen Leo stop coming around after you didn't let him join your project? Why did he even come to Anya's funeral this time? Who knows, maybe he's grown up now and realizes he was childish back then. Only I knew the real reason. Ethan was already 28 and still didn't have a girlfriend. Mrs. Zhang was very worried, lamenting to my mother, while I sat beside them eavesdropping. Sister, tell me what kind of person he likes. I've introduced him to all the girls in this neighborhood, but he doesn't like any of them. So, when Ethan took me for a walk, I deliberately led him in front of the girl who often secretly admired Ethan. I threw myself at her, trying to create an opportunity for them. To apologize, Ethan immediately said he would invite her for a drink. The girl led me outside. Good boy, good boy. If we get together, I'll feed you delicious food every day. Even though I received her promise, I didn't feel happy. If only it were me, but I no longer had that chance. After their drinks, Ethan intended to take me home. I absolutely refused to leave the girl's side. If we left now, nothing more would happen. So Ethan had no choice but to invite the girl home for tea. Thank you, dear. Perhaps Leo really likes you. Why don't you come in for a cup of tea? It had been a long time since I'd been to Ethan's house. It was empty and quiet. I darted straight into Ethan's room. I wanted to find the love letter I had longed for all this time. His room was as tidy as ever. Based on my understanding of Ethan, I searched under the bed and found a paper box. Inside were all the little notes he and I had written to each other, along with various photos of me. Only the love letter was missing. Leo, come here and eat something. Ethan, as if he had been waiting, stood right in front of the door. The girl, sipping tea in the living room, also stood up, curiously glancing around. Many pictures were displayed on the shelf. The girl's eyes suddenly stopped at a photo of a brightly smiling Ethan next to an unfamiliar girl. Who is this, darling? The one I love. The girl looked skeptical. Why have I never seen her with you before? She's been famous for 10 years now. I'm sorry, I was careless. It's okay, she's always with me. My matchmaking plan had completely failed. Despite that, my mood strangely improved, and I pestered Ethan to play with me until he did. That evening, my father came to pick me up. Someone else was with him. A person I knew very well, Daniel, my father's student. During my high school years, he often helped me with my studies and took me out. I was very fond of him, like an older brother. Immediately, I, the stubborn pup, abandoned Ethan and clung to Daniel. Professor, has there been any new progress in Anya's case? Detective Lee is still investigating. We just have to trust him. It's been 10 years. I wonder if the culprit can still be found. Heaven's net may be wide, but none escape. There will surely be clues left behind. Anya will also bless and help us. No, Professor, don't say such things. Daniel nodded, looking thoughtful. Ah, your words remind me, Professor. Last time, Detective Lee told me that the small truck from back then was caught on camera. He plans to review surveillance cameras around the park from the past 10 years to see if the culprit ever returned. My father said with hope, perhaps this 10-year-old case is about to be solved. I can't believe you've been so persistent, Professor. Of course, Anya is my daughter, whom I raised for 18 years. Even if it takes another 30 years, as long as I'm alive, I will continue to search for her. My father couldn't help but be emotional. Daniel patted my father's shoulder, reassuring him. Professor, you are truly admirable. What a surprise. My father's words came true just 2 days later. Surveillance cameras recorded a person who came to the park every year, sitting on the bench in front of where I was buried, for an entire afternoon. That person was Liu Shen. But when the police found Liu Shen, he was already dead. A death that occurred before the police even had a chance to suspect him. Detective Lee himself came to our house and recounted these events. Liu Shen's death was extremely gruesome. His head was placed right in front of my grave, his eyes wide open, staring directly at my name on the tombstone. It was chilling, making my hair stand on end. I stood next to my father, looking at the pictures Detective Lee showed him. They were horribly mutilated. But next to Liu Shen's head was a bouquet of flowers identical to the one he had placed on my urn before. Immediately, I realized that Liu Shen had been murdered by his own accomplice. Clearly, I had no hand in this. Yet things were still taking a terrible turn, and I had no idea who was behind it. After everyone had left, my father suddenly became despondent. Liu Shen used to come to visit. I thought he had matured, but who knew it was a guilty conscience? My father wiped away tears as he spoke, his voice choked with sorrow. My Anya, it turns out I unintentionally harmed you. This horrible truth dealt my father a blow so severe that it took him a very long time to recover. My mother hugged my father, and it was a long while before he gradually calmed down. My father sobbed as he recounted the old story. 10 years ago, my father had a national-level project. Liu Shen wanted to participate, but my father felt that Liu Shen's academic qualifications were insufficient and did not accept him. Unexpectedly, just a few days later, Liu Shen joined another professor's project. Thanks to that project, he quickly rose to prominence, becoming the successful person he was today. I lay obediently in my father's arms, silently listening to every detail. In the evening, my father went to bed very early and didn't watch the news anymore. This worried me immensely, fearing he might have dark thoughts and do something foolish. I could only lie in front of my parents' bedroom door, trying to listen for any movement inside. As I drifted off to sleep, a strong metallic smell of blood assaulted my nose, mixed with a hint of pungent, sweet perfume. This scent awakened my hunting instincts, making my heart thump and my whole body restless. A faint noise at the door caught my attention. Woof, woof, woof. I started barking frantically. My barks echoed throughout the apartment building's corridor. My mother quickly opened the bedroom door. Leo, what's wrong with you? My mother's gentle petting couldn't soothe the unease in me. I still didn't take my eyes off the dark door. My father also stepped out of the room, quickly understanding my intent. Both of them, my father leading and my mother following, proceeded into the kitchen, a knife clutched in each hand. Clank, the door sprang open. No one was there, only a severed hand. It was still clutching a small piece of paper. My mother was startled. The knife in her hand clattered to the floor, making a loud noise. Ethan, in the apartment opposite, quickly opened his door when he heard the commotion and witnessed the terrifying scene. Ethan immediately called the police. Mr. and Mrs. Zhang, please come inside. Detective Lee immediately arrived at the scene. Ethan returned to his own apartment to help with the statement. My parents were terrified, their words somewhat incoherent. Every night, Leo would bark continuously at the door. We thought it was strange, so we opened the door and saw that hand. Captain, this hand might belong to Liu Shen. The note says, on that day, I used this hand to stab Anya Zhang in the heart. But forensic examination is needed to compare this hand with Liu Shen's head. When she heard the hand belonged to Liu Shen, my mother suddenly stopped trembling. She picked up the knife from the table, intending to strike a few more times. My father didn't stop her. It took both me and Detective Lee to hold her back. Woof, woof, woof. Calm down, calm down. Thanks to Detective Lee's intervention, my mother couldn't act. Her gaze at Detective Lee clearly showed her displeasure. No further information could be extracted, so they could only work with the statements from other residents in the apartment complex to determine the time the culprit appeared. Criminal investigators worked through the night to check the cameras, but because the school believed the residents of the faculty apartments were all highly educated, they had only installed a single camera. It was placed right in the middle of the hallway. When I woke up, Detective Lee was talking to my father. It's possible the culprit came from the small forest behind the apartment complex. They wore a baseball cap and a mask to cover their face, but their physique matches one of the two suspects who kidnapped Anya 10 years ago. He was quite muscular, arrived around 1 a.m. with a backpack, and left after only 2 minutes. Detective Lee's expression was very serious. I suspect Anya Zhang's case was caused by someone the two of you knew, and now you two might also be in danger. My father slammed his hand on the table with a loud bang. He dares to come lurking around. If he dares to come, the knives in our house haven't been gathering dust for nothing these past few years. I don't know if that table slamming intimidated the culprit, but it certainly startled me. My whole body jolted and trembled, and clarity instantly struck me. Up until this point, everyone only knew Liu Shen was dead, but where the rest of his body was remained a mystery. But I had pictured a location. That night, Ethan drove me to Xinjiang Park. Sure enough, Ethan and I were in sync, truly people of high intelligence. Ah no, I'm a dog. I led him towards the place where I had once been buried. The further I walked, the more confident I became that Liu Shen was here because his distinctive smell assaulted my senses. In an empty plot of land in the park, there was a white rose. As if it had absorbed enough nutrients, the flower had a brilliant red pistil, incredibly splendid, emitting an aura of danger. I lunged and bit the white rose stem, then I began to dig the earth. With my God-given digging instinct, I dug incredibly fast. Plus, my nose kept pushing into the dirt, making the shovel Ethan carried seem redundant. Pushing my nose into the dirt again, my mouth touched something soft and putrid. Ah. As soon as I realized I had touched Liu Shen's corpse, I panicked and ran away, dry heaving. My dog body shook with each retch. The flesh had decomposed long ago, maggots crawling everywhere. Thinking of that, I gagged again. I wished I could vomit up everything I had eaten yesterday. If I had known, I wouldn't have done this and just let Ethan dig. When the police arrived, I was lying on my side, throwing up green and yellow bile. I looked like I was about to die. Witnessing the chaotic scene we had caused, Detective Lee was a little annoyed. You too, this is very dangerous, you know? It's fine if the dog gets hurt, but what if something happens to a person? Isn't a dog's life a life too? I immediately felt a surge of energy, sprang up, and bumped Detective Lee several times. All right, Leo, you can't get hurt either. Faced with my fierce assault, Detective Lee was helpless. I proudly wagged my head, swaggering off actually. I lay back down, thinking sadly. After Ethan apologized profusely to the police, he was released. I sat next to Ethan in the passenger seat, my eyes fixed on the buildings along the road. When we arrived at the pet store where I usually got bathed, I desperately clawed at the car door. Woof, 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 hurry up, let me out to bathe. Ethan stroked my head, smiling as he said, You got yourself into this mess, so you have to deal with it. Teased by him, I had no strength left to argue. Now all I wanted was a bath. The handsome guy at the pet store sighed in resignation as soon as he saw me. Leo, do you really need to bathe so often? You just had one half a month ago, no need. As he spoke, he tried to refuse, but I clung to his leg and started wailing loudly. Woof, 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 I want a bath, I want a bath. He got really dirty today, just bathe him. I'll pay extra. Faced with the power of money, the handsome guy finally gave in. Half a month later, I was once again clinging to his leg, howling in the bathtub. But even while howling, I didn't forget to open my mouth wide to signal. Woof, 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 brush my teeth, handsome guy, brush my teeth. After he brushed my teeth a few times, I was temporarily satisfied. After my bath, I was a clean dog again, as good as new. Owner, what is this? Ethan, outside, picked up a button bell to examine it. This is a call button for owners. Just connect it to a phone, and when the pet presses this button, the owner will receive a message. Oh, how modern. In 10 years, technology has developed to this extent. Last time I looked at Ethan's phone, I didn't even know how to use it. Anyway, when I died, my mother was still using a flip phone. 10 years ago, when I made plans with Ethan, I was still using a landline phone. I was a little curious, so I jumped closer to Ethan to see. I'll buy one for you, Leo. If you want to find me to play, just press this button. My tail wagged furiously, my eyes sparkling as I stared at the button. New toy. With the help of the handsome guy, Ethan successfully connected it to his phone. In the car, I couldn't resist playing with it. I pressed the button vigorously and heard Ethan's phone ring continuously. Lee, you can't press this button randomly when we get home, okay? Only press it when you really need me. Of course, I'm a good boy. As soon as we got home, I placed my new toy right next to my food bowl. Just looking at it made me happy. Because of the unfortunate events that had befallen my family, Jiang University arranged for my parents to have a few days off. My father waved his hand at the principal and said, "No need, I want to see who is trying to harm us." For several days in a row, this old man woke up early, dragging me and my mother for morning walks. He even said it was to exercise. I really didn't understand what that old body could resist. While my father was exercising, I also began my great career of grinding my teeth. One day, when my mother took me to the market, I kept staring at the pile of beef bones, my eyes glowing. My mother thought I was craving meat, so she stewed beef for a very long time. At lunchtime, my mother gave me a bowl full of beef, but what I really wanted was bones. Since becoming a dog, I had done a second shameful thing, rummaging through the trash. The first shameful thing was eating indiscriminately. I pulled out a beef bone from the trash can and started gnawing at it. It was then that my mother finally realized. "Hey, Mr. Zhang, look at Leo gnawing on a bone. Aren't you afraid he'll choke?" My father took off his glasses, looked at me, and said, "It's fine. Don't dogs gnaw on bones, he's probably teething. From now on, give him a bone every day." My mother was still skeptical, observing me all day. Seeing that I didn't choke, she finally believed that I was truly teething. I heard that Daniel had also been coming around often these days. He said he was there to protect my parents. It just seemed that Daniel had changed a lot now. When no one else was around, he always seemed very pensive. A cold aura emanated from him. I didn't dare to go near him anymore. He made me feel very uncomfortable. Not physically, but an oppression from the depths of his soul. But when my parents appeared, he returned to his cheerful, smiling demeanor, like a blooming white rose. How strange. Indeed, only Ethan could always be himself in front of me. This naughty dog no longer liked Daniel and turned to leap into Ethan's arms. Daniel was considered my father's favorite student. Every time he came, my father would be much happier, able to chat endlessly with him about a ton of things I didn't understand. "Daniel, do you regret following me on this project for so long? Many of your peers have built careers and made a lot of money, and only you are still stuck in one place." My father maintained his usual blunt way of speaking. Daniel just smiled slightly. "I have no regrets. The opportunity to study with you, Professor, is something others can only dream of. Furthermore, you are like a father to me. How could I leave my family?" These words moved even me. Although I was no longer with my parents, having such a student was truly a blessing for my father. My father was also deeply touched. In the evening, he took Daniel out for drinks and said he would take care of Daniel for the rest of his life. I could clearly see that Daniel was genuinely happy that night, not just pretending. The cause of Liu Shen's death was a fatal stab wound to the heart. Died exactly like me, how excellent. Tonight, I definitely need to eat a few more bowls of melon seeds. My mother slammed her hand on the table angrily. "What? Is the culprit deliberately taunting us? Can't you ever be so easily startled?" My father rubbed his chest, trying to calm his heart, which was racing because of my mother. In the past, he never acted like this when slamming the table. My mother tried to calm down, and Detective Lee continued the conversation. We compared this knife wound with Anya's injuries and found that these could very likely be two wounds from the same type of knife or even the same knife. "So, does this knife offer any clues?" Detective Lee shook his head. "This type of knife is not widely used. It has a serrated edge." We contacted all manufacturers in Jiang City and identified that this type of knife was custom-made about 10 years ago, and there are only 2 of them. Only 2? And custom-made? Wouldn't that make it very easy to find? Too much time had passed, and furthermore, the manufacturer at that time was only a small workshop, without customer registration information. The craftsman only remembered that a small red crystal was embedded in the knife handle. Hearing this, a memory seemed to stir within me. Before closing my eyes, I had seen a red streak flash. I even thought it was blood spraying. The culprit had not yet been apprehended. To ensure our safety, Detective Lee assigned people to guard the faculty apartment complex 24/7. This culprit was very cunning and knowledgeable about Jiang University. Therefore, the scope of suspects was narrowed down to Jiang University students who had known Liu Shen 10 years ago. My father looked at the list and, seeing Daniel's name, immediately said, "It definitely can't be him. He's been with me for over 10 years. His character is honest and very trustworthy." Detective Lee replied, "It's as if we're overreacting, it's just suspicion. It wouldn't hurt to investigate a bit more." Almost 10 days passed, and the perpetrator still hadn't revealed themselves. He was like a ghost, arriving at midnight without a trace, leaving no footprints. Unable to continue the investigation at Jiang University, the police shifted their focus to Liu Shen's murder case. Nowadays, surveillance camera systems are very advanced, especially in the apartment complex where Liu Shen lived. It was like an action movie. Surveillance cameras there covered everything, with no blind spots, and every household had them installed. The cameras in that apartment complex could store data for up to a year. We had reviewed all cameras during that period. We discovered that around the time Anya was found, Daniel had visited Liu Shen several times, and 10 years ago, Liu Shen's participation in Professor Lee's project was also recommended by Daniel. Apart from these two periods, the two had no other contact. Furthermore, the figure in the camera matched Daniel's. We also compared it with images from the camera when Daniel visited your house. His gait was also consistent. For my father, this suspicion was like a thunderbolt from a clear sky. How could he kill Anya? He always said he regarded Anya as his own sister. Not only my father, but I too was utterly stunned. Why? But on second thought, everything might be revealed. The fact that I had arranged to meet Ethan by the river, even my parents didn't know. Yet, those two found their way there. It was only because at that time I considered Daniel my older brother that I asked him what kind of gift a boy would like. "So, our precious Anya, who are you planning to give a gift to? That boy Ethan?" At that time, he kept teasing and pressing me about my plans, so I told him everything. "I'm meeting him by the river tomorrow." In the end, Daniel said nothing, only stroked my head. To avoid alerting the snake in the grass, Ethan also knew nothing about this. Daniel was not usually at Jiang University. Even my father didn't know what he did. Last time, when the police tried to find him to collect information, they searched for 2 days without success, and eventually, he came forward himself. After discussions, Detective Lee and my father decided that the arrest would take place on the school's anniversary celebration day. Because the auditorium would be very crowded, the police would mingle, disguised as security personnel, to maintain order. The main goal was to apprehend Daniel. Due to insufficient numbers, the entire police force around the apartment complex was dispatched to the auditorium for support. My mother and I waited at home for news. The atmosphere of the anniversary celebration was very lively. From afar, I could still hear the fireworks echoing from the auditorium. Outside, the sunny weather made me feel lethargic. What a perfect day for sleeping in. Knock, knock, knock. My mother stood up to open the door. "Who is it?" As I stretched, I heard my mother cry out and fall to the ground. It was Daniel. My mother struggled to get up, rushing into the kitchen to grab a knife. "Why did you kill Anya? Tell me. Did your father and I treat you badly? Why did you lay hands on my only daughter? Anya called you big brother for 2 years. How could you be so cruel?" Daniel slammed the door shut, taking out a tiny dagger from his pocket. Oh no, I immediately rushed to my bowl, frantically pressing the emergency button. "Ethan, you must receive the signal I'm sending. Quickly bring Detective Lee here." I stood in front of my mother, growling at Daniel like a vicious dog. Even a dog is more loyal than me. "I'm so jealous of you. Why do you get Dad's care and love while I can only be his student?" It was the first time I saw him lose control like that. But who was his father? What did he mean by calling my father Dad? Did he think I couldn't speak so he could deceive me? My mother also didn't understand what was happening. "What are you talking about? I thought that if Anya died, I would be Dad's only child. Why haven't you forgotten her, even though she's been dead for 10 years? We could all live better lives." "Are you crazy? Even if Anya has been gone for 10 years, she's still my flesh and blood, the child I painstakingly raised. How could I forget her?" "I am crazy. So when Dad said we had to find the culprit at all costs, I wanted him to find me. I knew that if I killed Liu Shen, I wouldn't escape, but I didn't want to disappoint Dad." These words stunned me. Although I deeply trusted my father, a flicker of doubt flashed in my mind, just for a moment. Could Daniel be my father's illegitimate child? Why would my father abandon my mother and me for these people? Today, I absolutely had to see what kind of charms or potions they possessed to destroy another family's happiness. Does he really exist in the same world as me? I had heard countless times the story of how my parents first met. They were childhood sweethearts, growing up together from a young age. From elementary school, middle school, high school, and even university, they attended the same schools, always by each other's side. So where would my father have found the time to have a child with another woman? After hearing his story, my mother and I fully understood. Anya Zhang had been murdered by a deranged person and a jealous one in collusion. Suddenly, the sound of police sirens blared from below. Ethan must have brought Detective Lee. Daniel also heard the sirens and immediately swung his knife towards my mother. If he wanted to harm my mother, he had to ask my permission first. I lunged at him, my sharp teeth biting firmly into his arm. This was the first time I had tasted blood. It made me go wild. Bitten by me, Daniel had no choice but to switch hands to hold the knife and stab at me. I cried out in pain, and at the same time, Daniel's grip was freed. He kicked me hard, sending me tumbling onto the dining table. Oh, Leo, that knife wound hurt so much. But Daniel was already advancing towards my mother. I no longer cared about my injury, quickly scrambling up to shield my mother. Seeing me wounded, my mother aimed the knife directly at Daniel. Daniel didn't flinch and lunged forward. My mother swung the knife wildly, hitting Daniel's arm. I quickly seized the opportunity, charged forward, tackled Daniel to the ground, and tore at him with my teeth. He also went berserk, repeatedly stabbing me with the small knife. Everything was exactly like 10 years ago. In the end, I couldn't live out my life fully in this body. Even the way I died was exactly the same. But this time, I passed away in my mother's arms. Her tears were hot, warm like the morning sun. Just before my last breath, I saw my father and Ethan rushing over. Fortunately, I had protected my mother. It's a pity that this time I died right before their eyes, witnessing their heartbreaking tears. Postscript asterisk. Witnessing the heartbreaking scene, Detective Lee quickly drew his gun and approached Daniel, handcuffing him. Daniel offered no resistance, even actively extending his hands. His eyes never left his professor. Daniel grew up in the care of his mother, who constantly instilled in him the idea that their current difficult life was because his father had betrayed and abandoned them. His childhood was filled with beatings and scolding. When he enrolled in Jiang University and became the professor's student, the professor treated him like a father. Gradually, he came to see the professor as the biological father who had abandoned him. The professor's wife and daughter were the ones who had stolen his father's love. He murdered Anya Zhang to reclaim his professor's affection. That's why 10 years ago, he lured Liu Shen, who had just been rejected by the professor from participating in a project. Liu Shen had harbored resentment towards Professor Zhang ever since. After the university entrance exams, I told myself that this was no longer a childish crush. It was probably time to confess. That day, the weather was sweltering, and the incessant chirping of cicadas suddenly became strangely melodious. Passing by the supermarket, I saw fresh, delicious strawberries meticulously displayed, looking so tempting. Anya would surely love them. On my way, I was engrossed in envisioning a beautiful future, humming a familiar tune softly. A small truck whizzed past, bringing a fleeting gust of wind. But when I reached the riverbank, all I saw was a spilled milk tea. Anya, Anya, Anya. A terrible thought flashed through my mind. She had fallen into the water. I rushed down to the riverbank, searching. There was absolutely no sign that she had been there. Overwhelmed with panic, I quickly ran home, hoping Anya might have waited too long and gone home by herself. Mrs. Zhang was watching TV and said Anya hadn't returned. I immediately told her about Anya's disappearance. Mrs. Zhang called Mr. Zhang, who was still at school, and together we went to the police station to report the incident. It hasn't been 24 hours yet. You two should go home and wait. Perhaps the girl got carried away playing somewhere. Mrs. Zhang was extremely worried, insisting that Anya had always been a well-behaved child and would never do such a thing. Moreover, milk tea was her favorite drink. She certainly wouldn't have abandoned it. Fortunately, Detective Lee, having some free time, agreed to help us search. I searched with Detective Lee all day but still found no clues about Anya. Finally, the police department recognized the seriousness of the matter and began reviewing security cameras. We reviewed camera after camera for many days. Meanwhile, Mrs. Zhang lost sleep and appetite at home, waiting for the phone to ring. Eventually, they discovered Anya's figure on a national highway. She had been taken away by a small truck. It was then that I was horrified to realize that it was the same truck that had sped past me earlier. It turned out Anya and I had been so close to each other at that moment. I only wished it were a typical kidnapping for ransom. That way, I would still have a chance to save Anya, but she had completely vanished. Throughout that period, Mr. Zhang almost neglected his teaching job. Besides eating and sleeping, he dedicated the rest of his time to searching for Anya. We searched all over Jiang City, but Anya's whereabouts remained a mystery. 2 months later, we gradually accepted the truth that Anya had truly disappeared. For a decade, the dream of 2 strangers kidnapping Anya haunted me. I ran after them, begging them to give Anya back to me. But each time, they would just glance at me and disappear in the small truck. There were times I wanted to throw myself into the river to follow Anya. But whenever I saw my mother crying, urging me to let go, it was as if a string held me back in this world. I kept the promise I made to Anya years ago. I always waited for her at Jiang University. I must admit that when I heard the news of Anya's remains being found, it felt like an eternity had passed. I saw the little dog that found her. Its name was Leo, the very Leo that Anya liked. I didn't dare to show my emotions in front of everyone, only holding him tightly in my arms. When Anya was laid to rest, I selfishly harbored an infinite sadness. I placed the love letter I had wanted to read to her 10 years ago inside her coffin. I found that Leo had many similarities to Anya. At home, he liked to lie on her familiar cushion. I always felt her presence faintly in him, especially every time Leo snuck into my room, fumbling through my secrets. Could this really be my Anya? It was a wild thought, but I couldn't dismiss it. I stood at the door for a long time before I could finally speak. "Leo, come out and eat this treat." I had dismissed all the absurd matchmaking attempts people brought to me. I started watching TV, the cartoon she loved, from the episode she had left unfinished 10 years ago. Leo curled up in my lap, watching very intently. I could almost read the emotions on a dog's face. It was good. Anya had appeared by my side once more. I felt incredibly content, but cruelly the culprit was revealed. My life, connected to Anya, was once again thrown into turmoil. A head placed before the tombstone, a severed hand at the doorstep. The 10-year-old case continued in the present. I wondered if the culprit's actions after killing Liu Shen were a repetition of what had happened 10 years ago. That night, I took Leo to Xinjiang Park. It turned out Liu Shen's remains were indeed scattered in this very place. The place where Anya had rested for 10 years. How disgusting. When Leo dug the earth, he bumped into Liu Shen's corpse. Watching him retch beside me, for a moment, I thought I saw Anya as an adult. She was still as mischievous and innocent as ever. On the way back home with Leo, I saw him lying there, looking out the car window, his eyes longing, frantically tapping the window of the pet store. He looked so adorable. Hearing his screams during his bath, I burst out laughing outside the door. I had attached a bell for Leo so he could find me if anything happened. He was overjoyed. And so was I. Life continued peacefully. Every day, I took him for walks, letting him experience the changes in Jiang City. I had once thought life would always be like this, until the school anniversary celebration. Standing in the auditorium, I felt my phone vibrate repeatedly. This was the special ringtone I had set for Anya. Ominous thoughts swirled in my mind. All of them were images of Anya clutching her chest, covered in blood, pleading for my help. I immediately reported it to Detective Lee at the gate. Then I raced back to the apartment complex like a madman. The sensation rushed into my nose, my heart felt like it would drop out. My ears buzzed, only Anya's name echoing in my heart. But I was still one step too late. The living room was in disarray, blood smeared everywhere on the floor. I had lost Anya once more. My legs gave out and I collapsed. I stared, stunned, at Anya with her eyes closed. I closed my own eyes, tears streaming uncontrollably. I didn't know what to say. Anya had died at the hands of her beloved older brother, Daniel. It was the same 10 years ago, and it was no different now. How ironic. One person's unfortunate childhood had buried Anya's vibrant, joyful life, destroying my life and my hopes. My dearest Anya, according to our parents, we have known each other for 18 years. My life has never been without you, and I don't want to be without you in the future. In truth, I want to tell you that I love you. It seems that whenever you appear, the world becomes more vibrant and beautiful. I can't pinpoint one specific thing I love about you, but every gesture of yours captures my attention, and I believe those are all the things I cherish about you. The moon patiently revolves around the earth, never tiring, always willing to shine light on Earth's darkness. Compared to the sun's brilliance, the moon brings a gentle coolness. So, would you be willing to be with me, to walk alongside me throughout this life? Would you accept my dullness and slowness, for Ethan to become Anya's Ethan, and for us to grow old together? I will forever be your moon, forever waiting for you to return to Jiang City.